There we go. Welcome, everybody, to another iConnect University. I'm Cameron Evans, marketing manager here. Um, we actually have a very special guest on today to educate about open houses. I know how often real estate agents have open houses, not only for their listings, but also the listings of other real estate agents. And I believe it's because of the I think it's because how easy it is to find warm leads, to find people who are further along the buying journey that are closer to actually transacting. And that's what real estate agents are mainly looking for, people who are, I want to say right now, business. And so one of the best ways to do this is through open houses. And one of the best guys to explain how open houses are done from experience is the man, the myth, the legend himself, Joseph Limo.
Hey there, Cameron. Glad to be on with you guys. Always an honor.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, Joseph Limo, he's a broker. He is a certified CAR, California Association of Realtors, contracts trainer. He's a professor. Do you still do the teaching at Mount SAC?
Yes, sir.
Professor teaching real estate at Mount SAC, a loving husband and a great father. And yeah, and he's on here to teach us some open house stuff. And so, Joseph, I actually just, I do want to make this, I want to make this as efficient as possible so the agents get as much value out of it as possible. There's
Sure.
two questions that I would have as a real estate agent. One, how do I get as many people in my open house as possible?
hmm
And then two, how do I convert those people at the highest conversion rate possible into new clients for myself in order to build up my personal business?
Two loaded questions, man. You
I
ready to
know,
dive in?
very loaded questions.
Yeah,
And so, yeah, so let's start with how do you get as much traffic to the open house as possible? Like, walk me through like your prepping for open houses, walk me through your yeah, all the preparation that goes into open houses to drive as much traffic to it as possible.
absolutely. First and foremost, like getting ready for an open house isn't going to happen on a Friday if your open house is on a Saturday.
Mm,
And I think that's a big challenge for a lot of agents who just maybe don't know the life cycle of proper marketing for an open house.
mhm,
So typically, I want to know on Monday what house I'm going to be hosting open for that upcoming weekend.
mm,
And the reason is because there are, steps and there's a methodology to proper marketing.
mm,
So, to answer the real question, which is how do we get massive traffic? There's one thing that we have to be really clear about, and that typically traffic at an open house or interest in an open house, interest in a property in general, a significant portion of that is going to be how well is it positioned in the marketplace,
mhm,
meaning listing price.
mhm,
So, if you're hosting your own open house, hopefully you've had a great dialogue with your seller and help them understand that their listing price is a part of their marketing.
mm,
And if really analyzed properly and strategically placed, it's going to really facilitate a significant level of interest and therefore some really serious traffic to that open house as well. So I
mm,
want to make sure people are clear. We're going to talk about a bunch of marketing tactics and strategies to deploy. But if that listing price is way out of skew versus what the market really suggests that it can be or should be, then some of these tactics just may not work. All right.
mhm,
So we need to have a well-listed priced home in
mhm,
terms of it being attractive to the buyers.
mhm. Uh,
Typically, oh, go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna ask Joseph. So, for maybe some agents that are maybe getting their real estate career started, maybe they're brand new real estate agents, what would you suggest if they don't have any listings?
Yeah, great question. So, first and foremost, other agents in your office that have listings are probably going to be your main source of opportunity.
Mm,
Now, with some of the settlement changes that we've had with the National Association of Realtors, there is a lot of question as to whether or not it makes sense for an agent in one particular brokerage to host open houses and other brokerages, and a lot of question as to whether or not that would even be allowed by the brokers. So outside of you working an open house within your own brokerage, then get with your broker to ask them what that ability or appetite is for them to allow you to host other open houses outside of your brokerage.
Mm,
But
okay.
the main source, if it's not your own listing, it's going to be other listings within your office.
Got it. Got it. All right, cool. And so making sure, so just reiterating, I can either go get a listing from another agent, obviously with consulting my broker and asking them all the rules and regulations around that. If not, have my own listing, and then always making sure that we're pricing that listing accordingly, obviously if it's ours. And then do you have a time period? So like from signed contract date or from agent saying, yeah, you could do an open house in my home. Like, how much time would you give yourself for marketing that home?
Yeah, at minimum a week. So like I like
Okay.
to start on Monday. I want to secure and identify the property to host for that upcoming weekend
Mhm.
by Monday.
Got it.
And really here's why, especially if it's not your open house. I'm
Mm,
sorry, if it's not your listing that you're going to host an open house for.
mm,
One of the first things that you're going to want to ask the listing agent that's going to allow you to host is to post that open house into the multiple listing service.
mm,
Obviously, this is advantageous because it's going to uh, show up in the MLS to other agents that it's going to be hosted as an open house. And that syndication will start to show up in some of the other websites, but it may take 24 up to 72 hours to do so.
mm.
So ask them to post that open house in the multiple listing service if it's not your listing. If it is your listing, then make sure you put it in there.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then yeah, and then in that week's time, maybe you don't have to like dive super detailed into any one of the tactics, but what is like I want to say like your marketing strategy in that week leading up to the open house?
Yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, with permission, if it's not my listing, I want to make sure that the listing agent's comfortable with this, but I want to start putting out some digital marketing around this open house. So
Mm-hmm.
this means social, right? Posting on social,
Mm-hmm.
putting it into Craigslist, making sure that I have this even as a paid advertisement on some of the social platforms and really start to boost out there in the world that this specific property is going to be hosted open either Saturday or Sunday. I typically like to make sure that that is done by Tuesday afternoon. Because again, if you're paying for an ad on Facebook or one of the other platforms, Cameron knows this better than anybody, but typically those platforms need a day or two to really optimize the audience that's going to be interested in that marketing post.
Yep.
So you don't want to do that on a Thursday or Friday and the optimization never took place. As early as possible, no later than Tuesday, so that way you can really start to hit stride late Wednesday or Thursday when most people are actually starting to think about an open house.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Or
That
like
makes
their search for this upcoming weekend. Yeah.
That makes sense. I love it. Perfect. So Facebook ads, posting on your social. How soon do you then start getting into the, I want to say like flyering of the neighborhood? Like
Yep.
which day is the best day leading up to the open house to start doing that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So typically I'll spend like a Wednesday making sure that I have all my collateral ready. All
Mm-hmm.
right. And this
Mm-hmm.
is obviously going to be flyers. This
Mm-hmm.
is going to be making sure that I have either my PSRA or my BRBCs ready for that property,
Mm-hmm.
as well as the OHNA, the open house non-agency disclosure ready. So I just like to make sure in advance that I'm ready because the last thing I want to do as a productive agent is time block off my entire Friday to prepping for an open house.
Mm-hmm.
If I can have small increments of time throughout the week, it doesn't feel so cumbersome. So Wednesday tends to be the day that I get all my marketing collateral in line. If you're using QR codes for certain things like going to KV Core or trying to get them into like iConnect or the Tap Talk Tour,
Mm-hmm.
for example,
Mm-hmm.
this is the time to do it. So you have all of that built out as far as assets. So when you show up, you're ready to go.
Right.
So
Right.
that's what I like to do on Wednesday. But to answer your question more specifically about the door knocking, typically I like either a Thursday or a Friday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Friday is better, but I may not always be available on Friday. So looking at my calendar, it's either going to be Friday afternoon or Thursday afternoon. Thursday can be really great as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I do like to get out there in that neighborhood. Door knocking, I think, is a crucial piece to driving traffic for not only, getting buyers to walk through that open house, but to start to uncover listing opportunities in that neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Open houses should not just be for buyers. It should be for both buyers
Right.
and sellers.
Right.
The
Right.
door knocking piece is critical.
Yeah. Because I remember when previous webinars when you were talking about open houses where you have like a specific I would call it like a door knocking strategy, if you will, where you're
Yep,
constantly appearing in front of that person at their door. And but it's with purpose, like it's with intention. You're not just like, hey, it's me again, just a local real estate agent if you need me. It's yeah. Can you like talk through like
happy to.
yeah, door knocking strategy?
Absolutely. So door knocking for an open house is one of four and up to five potential door knocks around a listing. Now,
Mm,
if it's your listing, then four and five are an opportunity. Actually, let me just say up to five are an opportunity. If it's not your listing, it'll probably just be four door knocks.
mm,
So it's really easy. Here they are, just listed, right? Can be as early as you signing that contract, going through that neighborhood, just saying hello, letting everyone know who you are as an introduction. Even if you don't have a flyer, it could be as easy as a card and say, I'm the listing agent for this home. We just are, signed the contract. We should be live in a week or so. And I'm letting you know for a couple of reasons. Number one, if you have someone who's been interested in owning a home in this neighborhood and you want to pick your neighbor, this is the perfect opportunity. Just
mm,
you have awareness that this is going to be happening soon.
mhm,
Second, I deploy a really robust marketing strategy, including drone video and photography.
mm.
And if you know the date, let them know. Like next Tuesday, we'll have our drone up in the sky. If you happen to be around, come check it out.
Cool.
And then finally, I really like to make sure that I reach out to the neighbors in any neighborhood that I do business in so that you are made aware of exactly where we're at throughout this process. So that way you have a really keen understanding of what's happening with that home and most importantly, what's happening with the equity of yours.
Mm,
See you later. That's it. Okay, that's the
mm,
first door knock.
mhm,
I'm not asking for anything I'm not trying to close. Second door knock, open house. Okay. Again, if you're hosting it, easy door knock. Hey, it's Joseph again, the house on Main Street that I mentioned. We're going to have an open house this weekend, 12 to 4. But the reason I'm here is to personally invite you to a private preview that I set up for just you in the neighborhood.
mm,
So our open house starts at 12. You guys are welcome to come at 11 and see the property before the general public. I'll have some refreshments. You can grab some juice or a donut. Are you going to be around on Saturday to join us? And a lot of times they may say yes, they may say no, or I don't know. And you go, great. If you happen to know anyone who's really excited about owning in this neighborhood, feel free to invite them to your private event or just bring them with you. Hope to
mm,
see you then. Bye.
mhm,
I'm creating this. There's a couple of my goals with these door knocks are number one, to make it so that someone would want to answer the door for me again.
mm,
I want to walk away before they even think to themselves, like, okay, I'm ready to shut the door. And I also want to have this subconscious thought, like, oh, that wasn't so bad. Okay. So that's the second door knock.
mhm,
Third door knock is an easy one, right? Hey, we're under contract. So
mhm,
once we put the property under contract, and even if it's not your listing, you can still pull this off. Okay.
mhm,
But, go and let everyone know, hey, we just put the home under contract. This means we're going to start that escrow process. So it might be, 4 weeks before we see the closing, but just wanted you to know that the seller has agreed to a contract with the buyer. Now, this one I'm using like foot maneuvering or footwork to set traps. I want them to ask me one specific question. And I'm sure, Cameron, you know what that is. When you tell a neighbor, hey, that it went under contract, typically you're going to
mhm.
say or ask,
For how
how
much?
much did it sell for?
Yep. Mhm,
I want them to ask that question. And here's how I answer it, because you all know once we just enter into a contract, we don't know the final sales price. We don't know if there's any proceed concessions that might be asked for. Like there's some question marks there. So typically what I would say is, hey, you know what? That's a great question. And because we're just starting this escrow process, there's a few milestones that we need to go through before we can have certainty of a closing sales price. So unfortunately, I don't have the ability to disclose that to you now, but I'll tell you what I'll do. I promise as soon as we close, I'll come back and give you all the details, including the sales price. Is that fair? And 99.9% of the time, they're going to go, absolutely, that's fair. Great, bye. Now, what I've just done is I've given myself an invitation back,
mhm,
right? They have
mhm,
agreed that, yes, I want you to come back and tell me.
mhm,
And then, of course, Door knock number four is an easy one. Hey, we closed. All right. Now, this one is a little different if you're not the listing agent. And this door knock works exceptionally well when there is more than one offer. Okay.
Mm,
When there is more than one offer, you get to do this door knock and go, hey, we just closed on the property. You know, share with them some of the details, and then you can ask them, like, guess how many offers we ended up with. Now, with an integrity, you tell them the honest truth. If you don't know how many offers because it wasn't your listing, that's a simple phone call. You can call the listing agent. Hey, congratulations. That was a great property. You know, looks like you sold it for, the right amount or above asking price or what have you. That's awesome. Hey, I'm curious, how many offers did you end up with on that property? And most listing agents would be happy to just share that information with you. So when you show up, you're showing up and sharing this information with integrity.
mm,
Now, the reason why you want to ask this question, like, well, guess how many offers we had? When they answer, let's just say it was three. Okay.
mm,
They go, I don't know, get a couple of them, more than one. You go, yes, actually, we ended up with three offers. And as you know, the seller could only pick one, which means there are two families standing in line to buy in this neighborhood right now. I'm trying to do my best to find the next opportunity for those two families who are like literally gutted that they didn't get into this neighborhood.
mm,
Have you considered selling your home? And we all know most of the time they're going to say, nope, not me. Great, no problem. Who do you know around here that's even thought about or mentioned selling at some point?
mm,
I really want to connect these families who are hyper motivated and ready to offer a great price on a home with someone who's ready to sell. And you'd be surprised how often neighbors will tattle on each other.
mm.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's door knock four. Door knock five. I've only done this one a few times. It's a new strategy for me, but I think it's excellent if you're into community building.
Mm,
Door knock five, and I don't have one right next to me. There's these welcome banners. Welcome home. They're on Amazon. I want to say they're like $10 each.
mm,
They're like that, almost like a plastic, but like threaded material.
mm, mhm,
Okay. They're ideal for writing with like a Sharpie.
mhm,
You can walk a neighborhood. Now, you can do this as the listing agent, and this is a property in your farm, or if you're the buyer's agent,
mhm.
you can walk through that community, knock on a door, and go, listen, that home just sold, and the new owners are going to be taken over soon. But I'm here to see, would you mind signing something or just making a note to the new owners as a welcome to your neighborhood?
Mhm.
That is an excellent
That's it.
way
Mhm,
to build community. And when they're standing there making, whatever note they're writing, this is more of an opportunity to just build rapport and have conversation with people in the neighborhood.
yep.
So that's an excellent one. And again, you can do that if it's a listing in your farm area. Hey, you know me. This is the area I work in. Some agent sold a house, and this agent, sold it to a buyer. And hey, let's welcome that buyer. I mean, it really makes you stand out in that way. You could do it as a listing agent or as the buyer's agent. So no matter what, if you want to deploy that strategy, it's a great one. So
Yeah.
that's up to the five door knocks.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine like when you talk through that, I think of me as the homeowner that is seeing this person constantly come to my door. And one, it's just building that, I want to say top of mind awareness. Like my brain can't help but go to like an actual like strategy around this to where I get with my title rep and I figure out like some farms that I like. I know I'm gonna do an open house here every single weekend in this big farm that has whatever 5,000 properties
Mhm.
or however many. And so yeah, and so now what you're constantly doing is in that same farm, you're just being seen over and over and over again. And yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, that would holy cow. And especially if you're the type of person where you're going to end up knowing all the neighbors from those questions that you were asking because of all the referrals that you're asking for from people when you're going around knocking the neighborhood.
Not
Yeah.
only that, Cameron, it's such a pointed approach to door knocking
Mm-hmm.
that there's not a lot of angst. There's not a lot of fear. You're just going up and sharing the information that you're sharing.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally have had this happen multiple times. As I'm walking away, I've had one lady, I remember very clearly, she said, that's it? You're not going to sell me anything today?
Yeah.
As I'm walking away.
Uh-huh.
And I turned around laughing. I said, not today, not this
Uh-huh.
time. And she laughed too, but that really is my goal. I want people to answer a door, have a dialogue with me, and me seeing myself out of that situation, even before they're like, wow, that was almost too easy.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm looking for in most of the door knocks. And when you position yourself that way and keep coming back and doing what you said you would do, at that fourth door knock, you really have earned the right to ask the question
Mm-hmm.
if they've considered selling or someone around there has.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not someone who just showed up once, they've never seen you before, heard your voice, none of that.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're asking them a pretty personal question, quite honestly.
Right. 100%.
Now you're someone who's shown up several times, did what you said you would do. You might have met them at the open house as well. So it really positions you differently to ask that really pivotal question.
Mm-hmm. A hundred
Yeah.
percent. I love it. Yeah. That's lots of, so I mean, man, like if I was, again, if I was a real estate agent that was trying to figure out open houses, like just that in itself, just to drive as much traffic as I can to the open house with paid ads online on social, the content that you're posting, the flyers that you're putting around the neighborhood on top of door knocking that neighborhood multiple times. It's like that's so many different ways to bring traffic to the open house. And so say now, Joseph, you're now it's like open house day and you are right. Let's say you did everything that you said to do and you did it,
Mhm.
as much as you could, right? You're one of those really hungry real estate agents that's just like, all right, cool. I soaked up all the knowledge, Joseph, and then I went out and just executed everything that you said. I have a line of families waiting for me to open this open house at 1 p.m. As soon as I get in there and set up everything, now, like, what is your best advice on how do I convert this traffic into now new clients for myself? And obviously, like, the tangible thing is like, how do I get appointments from the people that are walking through this open house for new clientele for myself?
I'm going to answer that question a very pointed way in just a moment. There's two things
Mm-hmm.
I want to address beforehand. Number
Yeah,
one,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
if you're not a door knocker, replace those door knocks with phone calls and just do,
Mm,
um, like circle prospecting in those neighborhoods.
mm,
In fact, a lot of agents who are really, really serious and diligent about their open house traffic will do both. They'll door knock a certain number of homes and then have a broader area that they'll call around as well.
makes sense.
Because there's a difference between effectiveness and efficiency. Door knocks, at least for me, are more effective. They get to see me, meet me in person, the whole nine yards.
Mm-hmm.
Phone calls are far more efficient, right? I can pound out a bunch of phone calls in the same time it would take me to go door knock 20 houses.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe the strategy could be one, the other, or a combination of both.
Mm-hmm.
And then the one last thing I want to say about driving massive traffic to your open house is signage.
Mm-hmm.
Please, I know it's old school, but do not fall asleep on signage. Proper signage should look like, at minimum, 30 signs in the community to your open house. Minimum.
Mm-hmm.
How do you do that? You find the property, you find two major traffic points in like leading in from different ways, and you go out and put signs all the way to the property, hopefully with two different entry points.
Mm-hmm.
Now, sometimes there's some big streets nearby, which is awesome, but you don't want to just drop one directional sign at a corner. Okay, that's not going to cut it. Typically, what I'll do is if traffic is driving this direction, right, and it's a more major street, especially, I'm going to put four signs having them turn left. And I'm going to put one about 50 feet before the other, and then another 50 feet, and then the other. Okay. Why? If you think about you traveling down the road and you're just driving like a normal day, you're not going to be looking for signs. We want to pick up as much traffic as possible. Sometimes we need the first sign to be like, oh, what was that? Because I see two and three, and now their eyes are going to be forced to pay attention. So that's how I like to have signage. And if it's a smaller street, you can get away with two or three directionals for every turn, as an example. But the other magic trick is balloons. If I put down four signs, every other sign will have one balloon. The balloon is going to create movement, and our eyes are going to be attracted to analyzing movement, especially when we're driving or in a car.
Mm-hmm.
It's natural for us to be attracted to movement just to see what it is. So those are some really important tips on signage. I also like a 15-foot flag in front of the house. When they turn a corner on whatever street, they know which house is open when it's
Mm-hmm.
mine. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Signage will absolutely help. And it's impressive to the neighbors. They're like, man, this guy's got signs everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You are proof of concept that you know how to market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's interesting. So, because, and this goes to what you were saying before, where if again, like I'm like putting myself in the shoes of a homeowner who has seen this real estate agent multiple times. When I'm leaving on Saturday to go take the kids to soccer practice, I see the real estate agent signs constantly going up, or I see them everywhere. And so, like in my head as a seller, it's kind of like you're setting this subliminal message that it's like if you were to sell your property, this is the level of service, this is the marketing that you're going to get that we that you're going to get for selling your property. And so,
Absolutely.
yeah, I've actually, just a little testimonial, Joseph, like I've actually done this before, not as much as that. Like I didn't go as far as door knocking. I just flyered all the neighborhoods with door hangers.
Hmm.
But I've done this before. And I remember one of the neighbors came by and was like, "Oh, I just want to check out the open house." And I was like, "Great." And I was like, "Go in there and check." And he was telling me how, like, he's like, if I were to sell my home, I would want to use you. And he's like, because I see your signs everywhere. I see these, professional flyers laid out on the table in the front. And he's like, he was just like commending me as the neighbor. And he was just like, it's like, it seems like you're doing a really good job selling this home. And so I was
Yep.
like, I appreciate it. And that home, we were actually able to sell. I believe the numbers were, I can't remember the actual amount that we sold above asking price, but we were able to get multiple offers in that home in the first week that we actually put it on the market and we had the open house. And so, yeah, if I was executing that door knocking strategy, I would have went back to that neighbor and been like, "Hey, look, like, we got 4 offers. If you ever know anybody that's looking to sell, or yourself is looking to make a move, I'd be more than happy to be the guy to execute that for you."
Yep.
And so, yeah,
Proof
it's
of concept,
crazy.
man. I love it.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy the impression you leave on the neighbors.
Yeah.
Um, Perfect. So getting
So
all this.
let's how do we convert now? All right.
Yes.
We've done our job, got people lined up, constant traffic.
Mm-hmm.
How are we going to make sure that we don't miss out on opportunities?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a really simple three things. First and foremost, most agents are not having real estate conversations at an open house. I don't know why, but most of us feel like in an open house that we are there as like, you know, a flyer hander.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of people will walk in and we'll be so nice. Oh my gosh, welcome. Come and get some refreshments. Do whatever you want here. Don't worry about me. I'm nobody, but here's a flyer. And if you have any questions, I am your official doormat. And the problem is people will treat you that way if you allow them to. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're like, cool, I don't need to talk to you. I'm gonna do my thing and I'm out of here. All
Mm-hmm.
right.
Mm-hmm.
But you're missing out on a really critical cultural norm that's built into the open house. I mean, I can't walk into a Starbucks right now and go and ask someone within 30 seconds if they've been pre-approved and what their budget is for a monthly mortgage payment.
Mm-hmm.
If I walked into Starbucks doing that, trust me, in a week, I would be thrown out of Starbucks. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
But you are allowed to, I mean, even just from the consumer walking in, there's an understanding built in that that's probably going to be a topic of conversation. So we need to leverage that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think number one, agents need to get into a real estate conversation. All right.
Mm-hmm.
A lot harder said than done. Trust me. And I'll give you a tip on that in a moment. Number two, you need to make sure that you have technology to help you get those people into your CRM with some follow-up sequencing.
Mm-hmm.
This could be iCONNCT. This could be the CRM that has email campaigns, text campaigns, but you need to make sure that people go directly into that CRM because you may not convert someone in that moment. But if you have a good real estate conversation and you follow up, that's going to be really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third piece that I think is really important is video. John Reyes does a better job than anyone I've ever seen on this planet, leveraging his video content to convert. But you want to make sure that you're either sending out a video message at the end of the day for each party that stopped by, literally 3 seconds, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm wrapping up. John, it was nice to meet you today. Thanks for stopping by. and let them know that you're going to have some kind of follow-up going on.
Mm.
John Reyes, though, in a lot of cases, when he's talking in a deep real estate conversation with someone, he literally says, Cameron, here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to send you over a short video that'll go into depth as to what me and my team do to make sure my clients are successful. And if you like what you see on this video, you can just shoot me a message back. Cameron, what is your cell phone number? And he will literally stare at his phone until they give him the number. Okay.
Yeah.
It's uncomfortable sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
but he always has that video ready to deploy.
Mm-hmm.
Video messaging is extremely powerful. Okay.
Yeah.
So those are in a simple way the 3 tips, but let's go back to number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Again, most of the time people will walk in to an open house, and especially now that they have to typically sign one of 2 documents, right? An OHNA or a PSRA or a BRBC, if you know how to make that happen. But what a lot of agents will do is they will just leave them be, or they'll just answer all the questions and never ask any back.
Mm.
I've been leveraging a transition statement that is magic for me. This is, of everything we've talked about so far, Cameron,
Mm-hmm.
if agents grab onto this one thing I'm about to say, they will start converting at open houses.
Mm.
So this is my conversion statement, and it's really easy. So Cameron, you're out looking for a home for yourself. How's it going so far? That's it. Here's how I use it. Typically, someone will walk in, I'll greet them, I'll get their name. I like to repeat the name at least twice, right? So if Cameron walked in, I'd have a quick chat with him, welcome him in, and say, I'm Joseph and you are, and he'll say,
Cameron, I'm Cameron.
Cameron?
Mm-hmm.
Nice to meet you, Cameron. Come on in.
Mm.
I just said his name twice, but I didn't sound weird about it because I asked it the first time to clarify and make sure I'm enunciating it correctly. Cameron?
Mm-hmm.
Almost like a question mark at the back, and he validates that I did it correctly. And I go, great, welcome in, Cameron. Boom, said it twice. That's going to help me remember.
Mm-hmm.
Who's horrible with names?
Mm-hmm. Me.
Most people aren't horrible with names. It's that they just don't listen. Because
Mm-hmm.
most people, if you forgot their name immediately after they said it, it's because you didn't even hear it.
Mm.
But if you train yourself to do that, it's going to force you to listen to hear it.
Mm.
And then you'd be surprised how easy you can hold on to a name a lot longer.
Yeah.
So after me and Cameron have a short chat, have him sign one of the 2, and we start, I'm ready to let him go and see the property. This is where I'm going to hit him with, so Cameron, you're out looking for a home for yourself. How's it going so far?
Mm.
When most people hear me say it, it sounds easy, clean. That sounds easy enough, Joseph, but I dare most people to try it their first time and they're going to fumble all over it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of magic in that statement. First and foremost, I'm doing an assumption close. You're out looking for a home for yourself. I'm not asking them. I'm making a definitive statement. And then what I'm doing to leverage, psychology is I'm immediately asking him a simple question. And I know most people's brains will go to just answering the simple question. How's it going so far?
Mm.
And as human beings who are, interested in dialoguing with other human beings, we're probably just going to answer the simple question. And what that's going to do, though, is it's going to tell me, yes, he's the one looking for a home for himself.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because it seems so conversational, I'll probably start to draw out some of the most important data points that I'm looking for. Okay. And no, as soon as I ask that statement, it's going to seem conversational, but I'm in discovery mode. I've switched over. Now I'm discovering about this person.
Mm.
But I like to keep it real conversational. So how's it going so far? And someone will start to answer. Sometimes I'll interject. Oh, really? Wow, that's awesome. So you have how many kids? And I'm going to try and make it conversational so they don't let on that I'm trying to discover information about them.
Mm.
So in my experience, 1 of 2 things is going sideways for agents. 1, they don't ask any questions and don't get into a real estate conversation. Or 2, on the other extremity, they are literally like interrogating someone, or at least that's how it feels to the consumer. You want to be in between those 2. You
Mm-hmm.
absolutely need to get to those conversations and ask those questions, but you need to do it in a way where they might walk away not even realizing that you ask them about data points.
Right.
Okay.
Hmm.
So that alone will overhaul an agent's experience in converting opportunities at an open house. You have to get to a real estate conversation. And the statement again is real easy. So, Cameron, you're out looking for a home for yourself. How's it going so far?
Mm.
And I can change that up. If Cameron comes in really serious, then I can go, so Cameron, you're out looking for a home for yourself. How's it going so far? Or I could be like, so Cameron, you're out looking for a home for how's it going so far?
Yeah.
There's a lot of strategy in there, mirroring, matching someone's energy and whatnot. But ultimately, what you're trying to do is continue a conversation that feels very rapport building,
Mm.
but get to extracting out the data points.
Mm.
Because that's really the only way that you can engage someone successfully and start to not only uncover what their goals are in real estate, what their challenges are, but most importantly, how you can be the solution. And
Yes.
that's essentially what we're trying to do.
Yeah. 100%. I love how like how genuine it is. Like I'm pretty sure me along with everybody else, like, we anytime we're in our spare time just scrolling through social media and you see that one video that's like, here's the one thing you gotta say in order to convert everybody. And it's like, ah gosh, like another one of these. It's like the way you explained it, it's so genuine. It's so like it's actual trying to start a conversation, like you said, get into a real estate conversation naturally without seeming like that, without seeming like that individual, like when you walk into like a shoe store or whatever, and it's that salesperson, it's kind of like, hey, what are you doing here so far? It's like, I'm just
Right.
looking around, like let me just look around. And so yeah, it's like a non-pushy way of just getting into a real estate conversation, like you said. I love
Yeah, I think there's a lot more strategy that we could dive into. I mean, I do a whole open house training that would take like a full hour where I
it.
do
Hmm.
talk more about managing traffic in an open house.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
we're not coming off like that, annoying salesperson next to them,
Yep.
but really showing your level of professionalism, that you are consultative and that you really are like an expert with a massive level of confidence.
Hmm.
There are strategies around that. But again, if people really just get to a real estate conversation, that is going to dramatically change the experience they have at open houses.
Yeah. Joseph, just very curious, like what's been your best, I want to say, performing open house? Like what's the most amount of people that you've had in an open house in your experience?
Yeah, so some of the agents in my group have this really like just incredible online offer approach to taking listings.
Mm.
And what it does is it positions that home as like this absolutely slamming opportunity.
Hmm.
So I want to say the most number of like visitors at an open house was one of the ones that I did in Rialto with this strategy.
Hmm.
And I think we had 283
Dang.
over 2 days.
Holy cow.
And now that sounds great, and it was amazing. I've had agents like a great friend of mine and one of our coaches named Robert Weichelt.
Hmm.
He's shown some of our agents the same strategy. There are people who had over 800 people through an open house
Holy cow.
over a Saturday and a Sunday.
Damn.
Now, you want to talk about not missing out on opportunities. Typically, when we are seeing the momentum for an open house like that to hit, there's 4 or 5 agents there. No one
Mm.
agent is ever going to capture everyone that way.
Yeah.
And even then, those 5 agents typically have to do or deploy a strategy called knockout questions,
Mm.
where you have some pretty strong questions to know who's serious and who's an opportunity
Mm.
and who's
Hmm.
not, because
Yep.
there's no way you're going to touch everybody.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's interesting. I've been fortunate enough at the beginning of my career, I was a part of one of those, and it was when I first experienced like an open house done right. And I was actually with a team, and it was literally, so it was three of them there. It was the listing agent on the team, the buyer's agent on the team, and then they had the assistant that was in the process of getting her license. And so she was checking everybody in, and I was kind of like the mentee there, and I was just observing everything. I was just helping her with everything. So we were checking everybody in, and then as people were coming through the house, it was just like it was like in awe. It's kind of like when you watch an athlete do something crazy, and you're just like in awe of that. It was like that watching these two guys, pass, talked to one person and they were asking them a couple questions, and you could tell they're like, oh, okay, they're not that serious, but we have their information. And then we go on to the next couple, next couple, next couple. And before you know it, I would like walk in and in the kitchen, they're having a conversation. They're like, oh, yeah, so, once you speak to our lender, you're going to da 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 da. And when's the best time to come out to start the listing, the whole listing process. And I'm like, wow, they were like actually like closing people there at the open house
Yeah,
where they're like, yeah, let's schedule, appointments where we can come out and start the listing process, presentation, and just to go over everything we could do to get your home sold. And I was like, holy cow, like that's when you like that's my firsthand experience of what it looks like to have an open house and doing it right to where you're actually
hmm
driving lots of traffic. Obviously the main goal is to get that home sold, but on top of that, all of the people that don't have the opportunity to buy that home but they're looking in that area, it's like now you have this huge database of people that you had signed into your open house. And so, man.
absolutely. I mean, if you at minimum have a lender there that's doing qualifying buyers on the spot,
Hmm.
then you know that you're having a successful open house in the
Hmm.
sense that you are converting traffic on some level.
Yeah.
And just so you guys know, like a really great knockout question, if there's 15 people standing at the door, as an example, it's really simple. Like, all right, hey everyone, real quick, raise your hand if you're an agent or you have your agent's contact information with you.
Mm.
And everyone who raises their hand, you just send them this way,
Yeah.
get the agent's card or get the card that people, and you can ask them like whatever questions you want from there if they're contract with their agent or what have you. But the people left over, they didn't answer that because they probably don't have an agent, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
But don't make the mistake of going, who already has an agent? Because everyone's going to be like, yeah, I have four, leave me alone,
Mhm.
right? You have to be
Yeah.
more strategic about it. But that's an excellent knockout question if you have an abundance of traffic to kind of separate people out and know who to focus on.
Yeah. Amazing. Does anybody have any questions for Joseph before we conclude? Yeah, Joseph, that's man, that's really good stuff. Man, every time it's so crazy because every time every time I hear you talk about open houses, I seriously like consider I'm like, man, like if I was a real estate agent, I'd be taking full blown advantage of, stuff like this. And right now I would like get on the phone with one of the agents in our brokerage and be like, hey, like, do you have any listings over here in this area?
Right.
And so, John, I see you unmuted yourself. Do you have a question?
And I put my face closer too.
Nice.
I'm wondering, Joseph, with your 30 signs, is that why you're so fit, or do you have a assistant, or what?
Man, I'll tell you, I think there's a lot of inefficiencies in how I run my business, John, quite honestly, and putting up signs is one of them. Typically, though, it'll be like me and one other agent. So someone's driving, the other one's jumping out and dropping signs.
Mm.
But when you're serious about your signage, you also need to take account of where everything is. So you want to make sure things are where they're supposed to be and that you can pick them up later. By the way, I'm a really big advocate. If you're doing a Saturday and Sunday open house, please pick up your signs in between. Neighbors don't like to see that stuff overnight. It's really annoying for them.
Mhm.
But yeah, to answer your question, John, I mean, usually I'm showing up at a house that I'm going to host open an hour minimum, but usually an hour and a half before we get started. And a significant portion, if not a full hour of that, is dropping signs.
Mm.
Because
Great question.
if you do it Saturday and Sunday, coming and going, that's 120 stops you're making,
Yep.
Mm.
right? So you'd need somebody driving maybe. And do you use the heavier metal signs, the tripods, or the stick in the ground kind, or what?
Usually a combination of both, just
Mhm.
depending on the terrain. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All
Amazing.
right.
Well, Joseph, I appreciate it, man. Like always,
Always.
it's always a pleasure having you here. And is there anything you have going on right now? Any new courses you have coming out with, or anything going on with you right now?
Yeah, thank you for asking.
Mhm.
Actually, I just launched doing the residential purchase agreement, residential listing agreement, and buyer broker agreement.
Mhm.
I'm going to do 2-hour courses for each one of them.
Oh,
I'm
nice.
doing it online, $25 for each one for an agent to attend, or $50 for all three.
Mhm.
I love that I'm doing it online for a bunch of reasons. Visual is easier. I like a ton of Q&A like throughout, so it's very conversational
Mhm.
and it's recorded. Contract mastery is difficult when you show up to even a 4-hour course once,
Mhm.
right? And what I'm doing through my courses is just making sure people have a simple 3-step approach to master their contracts once and for all. and how to maintain that maintenance of mastery.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm launching right now. I had my first one last Friday, skipping this week, and we're going to get after it next Friday again.
Nice. Amazing. Amazing. Yeah, I love that. Well, Joseph, I appreciate it. Like, again, like always, dude, wealth of information that you always come with every time you're on here.
Always an honor, man. Appreciate you,
Yeah.
Cameron. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you guys for listening.
Hope everybody has a great rest of the week. I'll talk to you guys all on Friday. See ya.
Appreciate you, Cameron. Have a good one, bud.
All right, you too, man.